Hey everyone, let me first make sure that you guys can hear me. Okay, let me give it a second. Okay, just waiting for the delay. All right. Okay, it's all good. Hey, how y'all doing? Now, you know I don't celebrate the holidays, although we are supposed to um, acknowledge the holy days, definitely, but not these pagan inspired holidays. How you doing, Miss Cardio Queen? How you doing? I do. I love the look of. I don't like being cold, but I love the look of winter. So I love this background here. But no, I don't participate, or I try not to participate in these holidays. Although I do find myself, I may find myself cooking, and yeah. So he's saying Mary something. Okay, well, thank you for the greeting. Still, just had a very very kind person to drop off something. Although, it was kind of awkward for me to explain, don't really celebrate the holidays, but I know that I've been slipping and still like Thanksgiving, doing some cooking and stuff. There's nothing wrong with cooking. We have to still eat. But, being that it is, like it may be still be expected of you to prepare certain foods, but I know that we have to, cut loose from these mostly pagan inspired holidays. But yeah, I just came up in here because it's that time of the month to do my hair again, or that time of the every 6 weeks. Now it seems like it's like every 4 weeks to do my hair, to re-lock my hair. And so I've been missing out on Truth Unedited. I'm subscribed to the channel, but I have been missing out on his videos. Yeah, and I want to talk to y'all for a minute because it's just ironic with what I'm watching, and something else that I had watched. But yeah, I had been slipping. My husband and I, we definitely would watch Truth Unedited. Let me do a screen share so you can see the channel I'm talking about. And I have a link in the description. I want you guys to subscribe to this channel. I know I've suggested this channel before. Okay. Amongst other channels that I have suggested. Yeah. Now, the video that I've shared although in the description, I've given you the link to his channel for you to subscribe. But I shared, however, in my community tab, part 15, more specifically part 15 of his Waking Up to the Truth series. But yes, he does want you to, yeah, it would be best if you started from part 1 so you can get a better understanding of everything in full context. However, I shared with you part 15 to kind of attract you, you know. But yeah, it would be best if you watch this series in its full context. And let me tell you, Truth Unedited's videos, yeah, like right now I'm in the middle of like part 19, his last upload that he's had. And I expect for him to upload again on Friday. Now he used to just upload every Friday evening. My husband and I would look forward to his uploads on his YouTube channel, Truth Unedited, one word that is. Um, but he has been, considering we're in the critical times, he's been putting in more work, putting in more effort, and yeah, and his own contribution, in not to mention time, in putting together these videos, and not just on Fridays. And yeah, and I really really appreciate that. Yeah, yeah, he's and I'm gonna tell you, his videos, you will find yourself like binge watching. I really like the way he put together the videos, even with the little, I guess what you call it, animation, kind of like a cutout animation. I don't want to mention that show South Park, but it's kind of, I don't know what type of animation or way you can find that. Yeah. along with storybooks. I like the way that he put together, not just, lazy, just totally dependent on AI, but yeah, I like the way it makes it easy, simple to follow. Yeah, and it's like, yeah, if you like stories, like you could watch it with your family, with your children. Um, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. And you can see with the amount of views that he receives. Now this I wanted to talk about. Now I've watched his series. Yeah, let me go to his channel. Now this is part 15. The blessings go to Jacob. There is no such thing as spiritual Israel waking up to the truth, part 15. And I'm right now on part 19. Let me go to his channel. Now the reason I wanted to talk to y'all for a moment, because y'all know I'm a person. I know I be slipping up in here, so caught up in hip hop but yeah, I know what I should be doing. Okay, so I'm not up in here trying to play hypocrite. I know I'm still pretty much caught up in the world and racial pride and all of that, but I am awakening. I've really been in a state of awakening, since I was very young. Just won't Well, you got to understand, like I said, as you guys know, my mother was um, of course, she passed away with the rest of my parents, but my mother was a very pro-black woman who was in affiliation with the Panthers in Chicago. Her being born, like I said, the same year as Fred Hampton, us also being on the west side of Chicago, just 15 minutes away from where he was taken out. Yeah, and my mother was very, very much influenced by black, the conscious black, I guess you could say black nationalists of that time of her era, and thus she had a great influence on her children, definitely on me. I think probably more on me, you know, than any of the other children when it comes to yeah. So I've been a person. I've been black and proud since, and me being born in that time era in the early to mid 70s. So I was definitely a pro, born in the era of black pride, and that's pretty much all I know. But then, like I said, I lived with being my mother, becoming a widow and everything, and having struggles with a lot of kids. My mother had me live with an auntie and uncle when I was very, very young. First, she had me living on the age 6, and I'd be kind of back and forth with them up until I was like around the age 10. And then maybe I'd spend like a summer with them as a teenager or something. But yeah, I was very much, when it came to my spirituality, or my beliefs, if you want to call it religious beliefs, although I'm not a religious person, but I was more so influenced. Although don't get me wrong, my mother went to the Bible. I mean, she believed in the Bible, but she didn't really go to church. She never, we never like went to church with my mother. Okay, but she did believe in the Bible. She had the cross on the wall and everything. I think if my mother would have went to church, she probably would have been Catholic, because she had this great respect for Mother Teresa, and but no, we didn't really go to church. But when I lived with my auntie and uncle, her sister and her husband, they were Jehovah's Witnesses. They became Jehovah's Witnesses in the 70s, along with my maternal grandmother. This is well after my mother was grown. So they never were able to get my auntie and uncle to go to the Kingdom Hall. But from a very young age of me living, starting at the age of 6, living back and forth with my auntie and uncle, yeah, and their family, and going to the Kingdom Hall, going and joining them in field service, and being that I was already a child, and my mother had me reading well before I was in school. Reading was very important to my mother, having books, encyclopedias. Like I said, when I was 7, I had the like Charlie Brown what was I, 8 years old? Got the Charlie Brown encyclopedia like as a birthday present. So yeah, reading was a very, very big deal to my mother, wanting us to read and learn, and history and everything. But the thing is, I was a person who was conflicted. Like I said, I was conflicted, well, with what I learned from my mother and learned from, just history, like especially in relation to we as quote unquote black people. And then see, however, my mama's sister, very different from my mother. My mother's sister and her husband, they were Jehovah's Witness, and they were not pro-black. Do you understand? I'm not saying that they were raccoons necessarily, but they were they were very colorblind. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so a lot of, yeah, the pro-black rhetoric, they definitely not my uncle. He, if he was not Jehovah's Witness, he definitely would have been a Republican right. He didn't like the idea of black people feeling sorry for themselves, and that was one thing he kind of did not like with my mother. He respected my mother, but like he would always get at me for always feeling like I got to be for the underdog. But you got to understand that's how, and you got to understand my mama was influenced by the black nationalists of her era, and many of those black nationalists, even though they're not gonna, a lot of people don't want to talk about this, but they were influenced by ideas of Marxism. I'm gonna just keep it real. Now, if I would have tell my mom she was a commie or something like that, she'd be like, no way. But they were influenced, definitely. And so they would definitely would not have been Republican or conservative leaning. That was like my mother, like the idea of black people being a Republican, that was an absolute no-no. But of course, now I know that I am not to be with either or. Well, I learned that from a young age. But yes, my mother, exactly. Thank you for understanding that. And I'm you know what, I do not regret my upbringing because I feel like it was meant to be like this. It was meant to be. That's the thing. But it did have me, and I'm still kind of in that conflict because yeah, one minute would there be what my mama teach me on Black Pride, what I learned, and then what my auntie and uncle, where they warned me, they would show me scriptures warning me about pride. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it did kind of have me a little bit in conflict. And then for my brothers, for them, when they became adults, my one brother became an adult. Yeah, he had didn't come with us when we moved to the suburb. He had this was when I was a teenager in the late 80s. He had came to the truth that our people were of Yasharel, or he would just said Israel. He had changed his name and everything. So that was on a whole nother level. So like when I was a teenager, came to my auntie and uncle, or to my auntie, like, they showed me this, that we're Israel, so my auntie, she would just show me the scriptures on pride. And then when I would tell her that I learned that we ain't supposed to eat pork, she would show me in the New Testament what it said, Paul, the same thing, everything, don't call anything unclean. So it had me in, what I'm saying? So you could understand, I was in conflict. And then there was the hip hop side of me. Being from the projects and everything. So yeah. And the thing is, I kind of clung more to what I learned from my auntie and uncle, actually, because I learned more from the Bible, and I do not regret studying with the Jehovah's Witness. I was one of those kids. It wasn't just a thing of me being forced to go to the Kingdom Hall. I really actually loved what I learned from them publications. I used to love looking at the My Book of Bible Stories. I loved Bible stories. So yeah, but it was a lot. Because imagine you learning, I'm like an 8-year-old kid, early 80s, I'm learning about Reaganomics, and I'm learning that Christmas is wrong, so it was like, it was in a way, I kind of felt it was too much. It was too much for a child to learn. But that's how I felt. Yeah, I'm learning. Yeah, I've been learning. Oh, trust me, I've been learning that. But I'm not gonna lie. For a while, even though considering what my brother has shown me that we are of Yasharel, and understand he is not of one of these Hebrew Israelite camps, I ain't know nothing about. Even though I've been told that we are of Yasharel going back to the 80s through my brother. I did not know of these. In my family in Chicago, well, for the most part, I didn't know of the Israelite camps, the Hebrews. I didn't know about that until more recent years with social media. And I didn't know about the IUIC and all that. I didn't know, I was not being taught that Esau was the white man. That's not how I was learning it from my brother. I wasn't, understand. If you get what I'm saying. I didn't know anything about no 12 tribes chart. So don't get my brother, and then, eventually my other brother kind of joined them. Don't get them confused with these Hebrew Israelite camps, okay? And I don't mean no disrespect if you're a part of it. I'm just saying. Okay. But yeah, so that took me on a whole nother. I was like, but I put aside what I learned from my brother. I've given this testimony a million times. I put aside when I was a teenager, I kind of put it aside, but I remember he was showing me like these extra books and like Apocrypha, and I'm like, where is this? Where do you get these books? And I was like, what religion y'all? And they were like, we not no religion. They would just meet together and on the north side of Chicago at this man's apartment, and they would study the Bible. And they had all these, and you gotta understand, this was the late '80s. We didn't have no internet, but I'm like, wondering where y'all get these, these books, like, yeah, of the, what we refer to as the Apocrypha, and the other, yeah. So, um, yeah, but I put it aside because I thought of what my auntie said. But you know what? I know y'all don't hear me though, but my auntie and uncle, they were kind of right too now. They were kind of right also in talking about the pride. Okay. Yeah, because that's what still kind of got me looped into because I'm still stuck on black pride. And I know y'all think I'm sounding like a raccoon now, but you'll trust me. If you hear me, you hear me though. But you say you got into the awakening with that's when I had discovered Stephen Darby's channel. It was like right before he passed. Somebody put me up on his channel. But yeah, but this is very interesting because I'm listening to the series. Now, I have not read entirely through the book of Jasher or Jubilees. I've read some of the book of Jasher, more specifically on Esau. And him being the one being said to have taken out Nimrod. Now, that had really interested me, because I've gotten a lot of information on Nimrod, but I still have not read the book of Jasher. And now the scriptures do mention the within the 66 books that y'all know, like from Genesis to Revelation, y'all know as the biblical canon. The book of Yasher or Jasher, it is mentioned, like I believe, like in 2 Samuel. Yeah, and I got to do more research. I got to do more research because I know there are some people they disregard, like the book of Enoch, book of Yasher, the book of Jubilees. There's some people, and as well as the Apocrypha book, like i.e. Maccabees, book of Maccabees. But it's making a lot of sense. It is making a lot of sense, and I really want y'all to check it out. I mean, yeah, okay. Myself, like Truth Unedited, we're still human. We're still capable of error. We're imperfect. We're still capable of sin. So don't totally take our word for it. I'm just suggesting, I'm recommending this to you. Okay. Um yeah, because I definitely, but pray to the Most High, Yah, for the Holy Spirit, for discernment, understand, and don't just take it, what we say, do your own research. Okay, do your own research as well. Okay, but I still recommend this. Okay, yeah, we're supposed to evolve, we're supposed to grow, learn progressively. Understand? Learn progressively. And so it's just interesting. The reason I'm really, because I'm thinking of the way that I have learned some of these stories. For instance, yeah, when you learn more, like for instance in the book of Jasher about Esau, and you get and you get an understanding why it was that he was like faint and he was about to die, to the point where he sold his birthright, where he just wanted to. You understand? You'll know why he. You understand what I'm saying? But one thing that is getting me, I had not known this. Okay, because I was okay. If you know anything about the story of what we called her Dinah, he says the Truth Unedited refers to the one daughter that of Jacob or Yaakov, aka Yasharel, the one daughter of all of his children that he had was, or at least that's named, is Dinah or Dina. He's referring to her as Dina. I'm used to saying Dinah. Yeah. And I remember that story in particular because now, yes, I have read, the scriptures, the Bible, but I remember that story in particular. I used to really like that story with my book of Bible stories when I was young. I like the pictures. Me being a kid, I like the pictures of. But of course, the My Book of Bible Stories, of course, they had them depicted as Caucasian. um, yeah, the old My Book of Bible Stories. I believe it was initially published maybe late 70s. Yeah, I first got to peek up. Yeah, I remember when it was yellow. It was 1981 when I first believe. Yeah, re, and I used to love. My grandmother would read to me these stories, and I remember the Dinah gets into trouble. Yeah, I used to like this. I like the illustrations. It had really, really good illustrations. Me also being an artist and being young and a kid, so I love it was some great paintings and stuff. Yeah, and it would show like these representing the Canaanite girls, and this being Dinah. Hold on, this being Dinah right here. This supposedly being this is how they depicted Dinah, and the Canaanite man Shechem, who ends up RAPEing Dinah. Sad to say that's the sad thing. But I used to like looking at the girls, looking and all the. But the way that I was like taught, it's very the way I was taught about this story. Yeah, this is the image that they used. Oh man. I remember looking at this as a kid. And I used to love looking at, the way the girls had, they were dressed up with so I kind of liked this story. I think I also liked the story because it was one dealing with a female, and me being a girl. Yeah, because usually it's not as many stories, with girl, you know what I'm saying. Um, but yeah, the Dinah gets it's just it's unfortunate. It's sad what happens to Dinah because of Sheikah. However, the way that I was taught about this was very different. In the My Book of Bible Stories, it made it seem as if all this trouble was because Dinah was associating with the Canaanite girls. That yeah, it's that this wouldn't have happened. And don't get me wrong, we can't learn bad associations. But actually, yeah, and it ended up resulting in Shechem and all of the Canaanite men amongst of that, yeah, with amongst them getting slaughtered by Dinah's two brothers. I think of my brothers how they would defend me being a. That's another thing too. I think that's another reason I look to this story because I'm the baby of the family. I have four older brothers. I have one sister, but I had four older brothers, and my brothers used to be very protective of me, and I think that's another reason why I was drawn to it. And only time something really bad happened to me later in life was when I was away from my brother's protection. That's when something bad did happen to me. But I didn't. Of course, reading this as a young girl, I didn't think that something like that could happen to me. But anyways, yeah, it's just really something when I think about this whole story. And so it was made to the way that I had learned this story was that Simeon and Levi did, like Dinah's brothers did a bad thing in avenging her. That's how it was kind of taught to me and taking out Shechem and yeah, but now I'm learning it a little differently. Yeah, I guess more in context with so it's like kind of blowing my like wow, when you really then you also understand why there have been certain books removed or separated from the biblical canon. You get a better understanding. Yes. Oh, yeah. And Maccabees. And this is another thing. This is why Maccabees taken out. First Maccabees 3:48 and laid open the book of the law wherein the heathen sought to paint the likeness of their images. Yeah. So I'm just wow, and I'm like, wow, this gives you so much. So of course, Yeah, this is the way, and this image still kind of stick in my mind. Like I still kind of see when I think of David, like when I'm reading the book of Psalms, for instance, I'm still kind of having that vision that the My Book of Bible stories implanted in my head of David, you know. But I know I'm not gonna let that be my focus right now. But yeah, uh, but you remember the My Book of Bible stories? Yeah, but going back to Truth Unedited, yeah. And it's so this is something because this is my auntie who is Jehovah's Witness with her husband who was a Jehovah's Witness elder. Now I remember when I had came to my auntie when I was like a teenager and telling her what I learned from my brother who had taught me that we were of Yasharel, Israel, as he would say. And you know, are we the so-called quote unquote black people, more specifically, you know, of the Americas. Yeah, who were enslaved in the Americas. And I remember when I first told my auntie that, like when I learned about it, and of course, you know, like I said, my auntie would show me scriptures on pride, but she also taught me that, yeah, she was not feeling that at all from my brothers, what they were talking about. She wasn't feeling it at all. In fact, when she be at a family get together, and it'd be my brothers hosting it, my two brothers who know that they're of Yasharel, and they would be praying, and she would have a look on her face, and yeah, like a disgust. But anyways, my auntie now, uh yeah, I remember her telling me when I came to her with this, she told me that Israel was spiritual. Like it does like today it doesn't matter. It may have been more physical or more about a direct lineage in the past in ancient or quote unquote biblical times. However, today Israel is in spirit. That's what she taught me. And I know she meant well. I know she meant well. But I'm glad to, yeah. So I had put aside for a while, I put aside everything that my brother had showed me. I put aside everything that my brother had showed me. And I remember I used to even like kind of be arguing with my brother. And that wasn't even that long ago. That wasn't even that many years ago. I would be going, you know, because I felt, you know, what I learned at the Kingdom Hall was the truth. I was studying with Jehovah's Witnesses. When I became an adult, decided to try to study with Jehovah's with my daughter. My daughter, you know, she still goes to the Kingdom Hall. You know, I'm not stopping her, but you know, yeah, it's obvious that we've been very much influenced by. Um, yeah, but of course, and like I said, my daughter's grown. She's over 30 years old, so now, so I can't, you know, I can't make her do anything, but uh, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, she's not like baptized or anything as of yet, but yeah, yeah, I see. This is the thing. Even I held on to what my auntie and uncle taught me and what they showed me in the Bible. I was still thinking like there's something significant with our people. There's just see you can't tell me. There's just something. But I put it aside because I remembered what my auntie and uncle taught me. I put everything I learned aside, you know, because I felt, you know, that okay, it don't matter. That may be true, but it shouldn't matter. So I put it aside. But hey, how you doing, L.A. Raymond? But yeah, yeah, I really suggest I put part 15. Although yes, I think it's best if you watch from part 1, but if I could at least grab your attention with part 15 on the blessings to okay, the title of this the blessing goes to Jacob. There is no such thing as spiritual Israel waking up to the truth, part 15. Now, yeah, don't get me wrong. You know, we learned that there are those like Gentiles who can be grafted in, if you will, but yeah, this helps give clarification. Do you understand? So I do suggest
if you want to have a job.
I really recommend that you watch it. Watch it from part 1. If you got the time. Watch it from part 1. And also, You know, like with the whole thing, yeah, he's got a lot of. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, his videos will have you binge watching, especially amongst all this craziness going on in YouTube, all this. Yeah, we are to be ye separate, but there's all this unnecessary division that's going on. All of this pick a side, where the FBA, Pan African, when the only side we need to be really choosing is Yah. Um, but yeah, also the children of Israel get revenge, which is why I just finished. I watched earlier. I'm now on part 19, his more recent upload, and yeah, and remember I talked about the whole thing with Dinah. Only thing is, I do believe that the Hivites. Remember what I talked about with the Horites? I believe they may have looked different. The Hivites, not the Hittites necessarily, but the Hivites. Although, yeah, I believe the Canaanites, I'm gonna just put. If you've seen my video on my other channel or my live stream that I did in talking in detail about what I believe with the horse, that's the only thing. That's the only thing I will say. Not saying I disagree with this video. Only thing I will say: the Hivites, I believe it's synonymous with the Horites. They may have looked different than this. Some of these Hivites, they may have looked different even from the other Canaanites. I'm gonna just put it like that. If you know why I say that, but still. Um, yeah, and going, yeah. So this is She Come and Dinah, and I'm like, wow, because I was made to feel that. What, let me just share, if he don't mind. I was made to believe that what, I wouldn't say made to believe, but the way I was influenced from the Jehovah's Witness, the way I was taught through them, watchtower.org, that Simeon and Levi was in the wrong for taking out those Canaanites after they did that, or Shechem did that to his sister. And so that's what I believe. Like, they handled things the wrong way, kind of like being vigilante, right? I'm not trying to influence nobody to be a vigilante. I'm just saying. But now, like, wow, you just share some of
and they will be recorded in the sefer of those who will be destroyed, and with those who will be rooted out of the earth. And on the day when the sons of Yaakov slew Shechem, a writing was recorded in their favor in heaven that they had executed righteousness and uprightness and vengeance on the sinners, and it was written for a blessing. And they.
So I'm like, okay, he's reading from the book of Jubilees. So I'm like, wow. Um, it makes sense. Levi being, appointed, the descendants of Levi being the high priest.
They brought Dinah, their sister, out of the house of Shechem, and they took captive everything that was in Shechem, their sheep and their oxen and their asses and all their.
Let me fast forward some.
Cover it all, but added more that needed to be understood and known. I mean, so much was just said and all that. I know that I won't be able to
sped it up some.
Cover it all. But first thing that needs to be understood is the culture of the Hebrews. There is so much confusion.
Wait, let me go back a little. Let me slow it down just a little. I do want y'all to.
I know that I won't be able to cover it all. But first thing that needs to be understood is the culture of the Hebrews. There is so much confusion about the culture of Yasharel. People want to say that Yasharel is a mixing pot of nations. But if you understand the culture of Yasharel from their inception, the Torah rejected intermingling. This was not accepted. And you will see more about this as we continue reading.
And it's interesting. Yeah, I've been speaking on my other channel, speaking about Olandria and defending Olandria, that's been on this recent show, Love Island, who is now in an interracial relationship. It's not so much me defending the interracial relationship, but defending her as a Black woman who I see being, unfairly, and as an unambiguous, dark-skinned Black woman. But I realize also that that's also about my pride. Because deep down, I know why, and I knew to expect this, her and her relationship with this Caucasian. It's not about me saying that I have anything against him, Nick. But I know I do understand why the spotlight is put on it, why it's being promoted, why, I know the agenda. This is agenda that I spoke of that would be promoted even more so. So I said, I gotta chill. As much as I want to defend her and her phenotype, or her and her, as a fellow Black woman, I need to chill because I'm not stupid to the agenda. I'm not stupid, you know. I'm not stupid to what the media is doing. Even I knew that I wasn't even supposed to be watching Love Island. You understand? But it's also interesting because I was watching Dave Chappelle with my husband. Now he got a recent special on Netflix, and Dave Chappelle goes into talking about the boxer Jack Johnson, and I know that there are Black people, more specifically brothers, who regard Jack Johnson, the boxer, as a hero. Kind of achieved what some would see as the Black man's dream. One, he became successful in a time when you did not have successful, wealthy, rich Black men. And he got rich knocking out white dudes, became the first Black heavyweight champion, knocking out white dudes, but also sleeping with white women, marrying white women. He married quite a few of them, but he had a thing though for brothels, prostitutes. He had a thing for prostitutes. He was also kind of find an abusive man. But what got me, what was interesting, is when Dave Chappelle said that Jack Johnson. Now I never heard him this quote, but Dave. So I said, let me look it up and see if this is that Jack Johnson said. I guess towards the end of his life, I risked everything for my pleasure. And Dave Chappelle got a recent special on Netflix, stand-up special. I forgot what it's called, but it's like on Netflix. And I will say this: I do appreciate that Dave Chappelle is not being politically correct, because I really expected something really tame. Because you know how everybody now, they're afraid to talk about C-19. They're afraid to talk. You can't say nothing about the XYZ. You can't. So, like I said, the last real comedian passed away with Paul Mooney. That's how I feel now, because they know, people are afraid. They're afraid to, being. They got to stay so politically correct, and comedy has never really been politically correct. But I will appreciate that I do, he's saying what he feels, Dave Chappelle, However, oh man. Yeah, and I already knew these things. There's a YouTube. I don't really want to suggest her channel because I don't feel that she really regards Black men or even Black people, so I'm not gonna say her name, but she has a video giving you a timeline of all the women that Jack Johnson was with. I don't think. And how you doing, Azor? He risked everything for my pleasure. And so Dave Chappelle, now he didn't say whether or not he agreed or disagreed, but it's almost like he wants you to think about that. Like, that's a very brave thing. And I'm thinking, no, that's a very stupid thing. If I didn't know better, I would think that Jack Johnson was like, almost like a plant, or planted, if you will, by the powers that be, who have more control over the media, including the sports arena, the media involved with the sports arena. Because how was he able to get away with that? Doing all, you know what I'm saying? Obviously he was allowed to. And I feel that he was perfect for triggering racial tensions. He's perfect, because it wasn't long after, when did Birth of a Nation? Yeah, because Dave Chappelle points to the year 1910. Let me get the exact year of the Birth of a Nation film. Yeah, shortly after 1915, after the whole, the Jack Johnson and Great White Hope and everything, around that same time period. And a few years after that, you had the riots kind of popped off with St. Louis in 1918, the race riots that led to massacres and eventually the Red Summer. You had the Chicago riots in 1919, the horror that went on, Little Rock, Arkansas, Omaha, of course, Rosewood, and, ultimately Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Yeah, so I can imagine all of the tension, But yeah, he should be able to be with who he want to be with. Should be able to be with who he want to be with. But yeah, and this being, them seeing this being, I can imagine newspapers and publications and the media at that time and them seeing this Negro looking fancy with a car, which a lot of people did not own. Got the women in furs, and so I can imagine. But yeah, this man representing, I believe, Judah. But yeah, it's just something to think about. And perhaps I'll go a little more into that. Creepy.org. Oh, I'm scared. Oh, goodness. Stephen, oh, goodness. I ain't looking at that man's eyes. Creepy is right. He looked like, in that image, he looked like Charles Manson or something like that. Yeah, but yeah, and then even, now you see this. Yeah, that's why I said, let me fall back on all this. As much as I want to defend Olandria from Love Island as a sister, I know that's about my pride. Very Grinch-like. Now, that doesn't mean I have to attack anybody. That's not what I'm about doing anyway. Yeah, you are so right. Nothing is new under the sun. But I'm going to tell you, with our downfall, it always started with us intermarrying and wanting to be like the other nations. When I say nations, I'm not just talking about race here. There was no concept of race back then. And this is just about Yasharel. It's not about the other nations and what they choose to do, if they choose to intermingle. This is about Yasharel being set apart. But it's not just, I see that this is serious. I'm really saying, it's serious. More serious even than I realized. Yeah, because I didn't even, see. Yeah, and also me learning of this Daughters of the Trade, Yasharel was also not to be giving away their daughters. Oh, really? Oh, okay. I'll look into that. That'd be real interesting to look into. Oh, really? You saying that Tulsa, Oklahoma event has been over embellished and exaggerated? You think so? I mean, what could have been left out? What, the horror been left out? Just how? So she will. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. How so? But yeah, y'all check it out. I mean, because I was thinking about talking about after listening to Dave Chappelle. Now I can understand Muhammad Ali giving props to Jack Johnson, being that he himself's a boxer, but I wouldn't say and I think it's kind of you should be able to do what you want to do, but I think it's kind of selfish for you to especially not because you know how many people from that. And I'm not making excuses for people lynching, but how many people were lynched during that time? And yeah, but but hey, as long as he got to get with the women he wanted to have sex, and that's the thing, he would choose these prostitutes, not even just white women, but he wanted the prostitutes, or he wanted the uh but we supposed to regard him as a hero. You can do, hey, no, we shouldn't be doing. I mean, the thing is, you can do it, but there's going to be consequences. There are going to be consequences. Now, I may debate with some people when it comes to, we can debate on free will. See, I'm not gonna lie. I have been taught that y'all, you know, yeah, but then I'm kind of in conflict on that. I may not have a full understanding because I was taught that gave us free will. It's just we gotta suffer the consequences. But then I'm also getting the understanding that pretty much everything is mapped out. So it's not really free will as we think. The Eastern Star, are you saying like the women, the Eastern Star? Or are you saying like a literal Eastern Star? Yeah. that got me thinking Judah. Yeah. But it's just that quote just really, because I had never heard that quote um being said, by Jack Johnson. Okay, let me make sure. It says I risked everything for my pleasure. Let me go to this decider. Yeah, he goes into speaking on the Mann Act and how that was spawned from Dave Chappelle, that is, how the Mann Act was spawned from, Jack Johnson. And yeah, so what does all this have to do with the first? Okay, I'm reading from decider.com. So what does this all have to do with the first Black world heavyweight boxing champion? Chappelle's takeaway from Johnson's story. Okay, wait, hold on. Let me read this here. Okay. On Dave Chappelle. Yeah, I think that this article is kind of critical of Dave Chappelle and his recent what's the name of the comedy? Dave Chappelle, The Unstoppable on Netflix. Okay, so this is recent. Okay. Meanwhile, his gloating about, and I'm glad that I don't want to say glad, but I prefer him being not being politically correct, if you will. Meanwhile, his gloating about buying up the Ohio town. Okay. The full title of his performance is The Unstoppable NIGGER Act, although Netflix isn't exactly courageous enough to put that on their home screen. No, I saw that on the screen. They did put that title as is. That's how I saw it. And the longer Chappelle goes down this darker path, the less anyone may see him as any sort of inheritor of the GOAT mantle previously bestowed upon Richard Pryor. Oh, please. This article is interesting because Richard Pryor actually went rawer. So, it's just that he's dead now. So he's no longer any sort of threat. But let me see. This is a defiant title for a stubbornly defiant comedian, no matter how right he may be. Okay, let me jump. Okay, for every point he makes proving the folly of comparing Charlie Kirk to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Chappelle proves himself even more foolish, petty, and juvenile with a crude joke about Cassie immediately after praising her for her courage in testifying against Puffy. So I'm reading decider.com. So what does this all have to do with the first black world heavyweight boxing champion? Chappelle's takeaway from Johnson's story is how the boxer himself, once considered unstoppable, was finally KO'd by racists via the Mann Act. Johnson reportedly admitted, I risked everything for my pleasure. Now, Chappelle sees himself as unstoppable, but okay. Yeah, so obviously this is um yeah, that's the thing. He leaves you with that oh my goodness. Give me a second, y'all. Okay, I'm gonna have to shut it down. But yeah, that's just it's the way that I hope you guys can hear me. I hope I turn back on the mic. But I gotta get out of here. Yeah, that was just something, yeah, that so and when you learn about I don't want to recommend that person's video, this woman, because I can tell she's not very fond of black men or black people, even for that, or quote unquote, black men are people for that matter. Hey, Mr. Urban World. But um, yeah, when you really know the details with Jack Johnson and Dave Chappelle, just leaving you and speaking on Jack Johnson, he kind of leaves you with that statement that Jack Johnson reportedly admitted, I risked everything for my pleasure. So it's like Dave Chappelle just kind of want you to think about it. Like it's almost like, is he saying, should we see him as a brave man, Jack Johnson? Like we should, you know, he was willing to risk whatever, racism, lynching, even his own people, because that this stirred tension throughout the nation where other black people being targeted, lynched. And I'm not trying to excuse or blame Jack Johnson for their evil actions. I'm just saying, you know, yeah, because it seemed as if he was a little more protected, whereas other brothers out there were not so protected. But he risked everything for his pleasure. Yeah, and that's what really got me thinking. And then with me seeing this video and seeing how serious it is, I mean, yeah, we got to get it together for real. And even with what we see that's going down, um, like with these celebrities, you see that the riches cannot save them. Yeah, yeah, what y'all saying on the race? I'm gonna have to look into. Yeah, I don't know what it is that you're saying. Yeah, L.A. Raymond, you could share the information. Um, okay, well, just you could post whatever information you have, L.A. Raymond. I will definitely look into it. But I gotta call back. Yeah. Yeah, so please, please, please forgive me for getting all over the place and talking about Dave Chappelle. And I'm not trying to entice you into watching Dave Chappelle or Love Island. I know I have to, but I definitely want y'all to check out. And it is best if you watch this series from part one. Although I did leave part 15. Now this is more specifically the Waking Up to the Truth series by Truthunedited. I'm just hoping to entice you with or track you to part 15, but it is better that if you watch from part 1 of his series so you can get a full understanding from Abraham to so you can get a fuller understanding and and more so in context. And it's very eye opening. It's very and I'm realizing even just when I thought I pretty much knew what I need. Yeah, I realized so much. I'm still learning every day, no matter regardless of so how much I have learned. I am still learning every day. And things that I perceived. Um, yeah. So just the idea, especially, I'm thinking of because that's what I was told, that Israel is spiritual, and I still kind of in the back of my mind, even though I know that but at the same time, I don't regret what I learned, living with my auntie and uncle, going to the Kingdom Hall. Because that's where I did first learn about these holidays and everything. So I feel it was meant to be. And from my mama and what I learned to, I don't think it was meant to have me in confusion. I think it was meant to be. And maybe this will help me, y'all willing to better reach other people who are also been in that conflict like I've been or I'm in. So who knows? But I will get back to y'all. I don't know what's going on in the chat room. So I gotta get off the phone. I mean, gotta respond to something. So I'll get back with y'all later. Y'all stay safe, okay? All right, peace and love, family.